welcome to Go For Your Life. Thank you so much for tuning in and giving me your listening ears. Woohoo! This is a podcast for everyone, about everything, and it's to encourage, inspire, uplift you to go for your life. And it is presented and hosted by myself, Caro, and my sweet dog, Sparky. Give it up for him. I hope you're ready. Enjoy. So everybody, welcome back to another episode of Go For Your Life. Now, this is a funny story. I have my dear friend Lynda here, and we did already record this episode, or we tried. Was it last week, Lynda? I think it was last week.
Last week or the week before.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Recently, but then, technical issues. So we're trying this again. But I actually really had such a lovely conversation with Lynda, and it's all in my head still. So I think we can have a wonderful, wonderful conversation. And the reason why I invited Lynda is because I think she is for me also a huge inspiration. She has, been on this in this lifetime on this earth for over 7 decades around the sun, and therefore has a lot of experience, lots of knowledge, lots of wisdom, and it's just one of the kindest people I've ever met. So I'm grateful and very excited that you are here, Lynda. Welcome.
Yeah, I'm excited too, Carol. Thanks so much for inviting me.
Yes, it's so good, and I feel like there's never, we just had a rehearsal,
Yes, that's right.
We've done that before. Like Lynda and I have had the pleasure to be in a play together somewhere this year. So we know what it's like to have rehearsals and then, doing it again. So sweet Lynda, from our conversation, I had a few sort of, bullet points. So I thought it would be nice to, take people back to, that's what I loved doing last time, where we take people back and then we'll, fly around your lifetime. Yeah. So if we go back to a tiny little Lynda, where did you grow up and how was your growing up? Like, how was your childhood?
Well, I grew up on the outskirts of Bradford in Yorkshire, in England. Mm-hmm. And I had a great childhood. We lived at the end of a street, so there's a real communal feel in this street. It was before even the roads had got tarmacked. It happened whilst I still lived there, and we did a lot of things as a street, if you could say. Mm-hmm. There's a community there in the street. It was quite long, probably at that time, maybe 50 houses. And but we were right at the bottom, and then it went out into open space, and we went out down there quite often, and there wasn't the same anxiety with parents, I think, about letting your children go out of the garden in those days. So we just explored. We made dens in the willow herb and caught frog spawn in the stream even further down, and it was really lovely place to grow up.
Yeah, were you mentioning also, like, you guys were doing bonfires or something, or like?
Yes, as a street, we would make a bonfire at the bottom of the road in the space that didn't seem to belong to anybody, and subsequently they built houses on it, so it must have belonged to somebody, but it was open to general use at that point. And we as children, we would collect all the wood we would need to make a big bonfire. And then it would be stored in different people's gardens until we could bring it all together. We'd spend like 6 weeks collecting this wood because it was such a big event for the children, at least. And the mums would make roast baked potatoes and plot toffee, which is cool. A sugar paradise.
yeah, I just want to say, kids are just like loving that.
And
Wow.
And we'd have our fireworks, and we'd make quite a big fire. It would last a few hours. And so that was a really special time of when the whole street would pull together, and all the children played. We as children played together. Quite an age range, probably from 5 to 15. We'd get together and do that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I remember.
You were mentioning also that you didn't like school much, right?
Oh, I didn't dislike school, actually.
You didn't dislike it? Okay.
Yeah, but I loved being out in the fresh air.
That's it. In nature.
Yes.
Do you remember from being really young, and did you have like, this is what I want to do for a living? Like, did you have sort of like, as you know, some young kids want to be a cop or a fireman or a doctor, or like, did you have any sort of?
No, I don't remember that. I never had a great passion to be a school teacher or a nurse or anything like that. No, I didn't, actually.
You would have been a great school teacher or a nurse. I can really picture you doing that. Because then, like, I think you were mentioning that at some stage in your life, was it your mom that was suggesting you towards a career that you ended up doing?
It was my mum, because I was the youngest of 4. And I think my mum did fancied the idea of having a teacher in the family. And she thought that would be a good idea, and I didn't have any better idea at the time. But I just thought, well, if I'm going to be a teacher, I'll be a physical education teacher. At least I'll be able to get outside doing that. So I did actually try apply for courses, but funnily enough, I didn't get in any of the courses. And then I tried to go for a light reading. So it was suggested I become a librarian. So I tried for library college, and then, which I got in, but I didn't get good enough grades to take the place.
Yeah. So
then I'm a bit a sort of a loose end and wondering what to do. And at that time, it was my mum, and it was a great thing that she did for me, actually. She suggested that I went to a secretarial college. She actually paid against my dad's wishes.
Which is quite something for that time, right? For that time, that's quite something. Yeah.
It was a year's course. And I went to Leeds, and she said that I could learn the shorthand and typing, which was what was used in those days, and all the other sort of office skills that you need, and it would always be useful to me. You know, she wasn't sort of saying I should be a secretary or something like that, but so it has been hugely useful to me. And in my first job, I used to enjoy the shorthand so much that I'd do the shorthand and somebody else would type it back.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
And do you feel like, do you still practice that skill?
No, I was just thinking the other day, it would have been good to have kept it up, because there are times when I have to write really fast. Yeah.
Wow. And was one of your first, because you ended up actually is it foreign affairs or in a foreign?
It was called in those days, don't know if it's still the same, the Foreign and Commonwealth Office.
Oh yeah, Foreign and Commonwealth Office.
Yeah.
And was that your first secretarial job then, or?
No, my first secretarial job was in Leeds General Infirmary.
Okay.
In the X-ray department. So I was typing up the reports, the doctor's reports on the X-ray. It was really fascinating, actually. They'd put the report on the screen. But this was just something we did part-time. Some I did in shorthand, more complex ones, but the fairly fast-moving ones, you put on the screen. We'd take turns the secretarial team in that department. We'd sit by the typewriter, do the things, the details on it while the doctor was deciding what to say, and then we'd just type it straight in.
Wow.
Otherwise they got a bit behind. It was called the hot seat.
Wow. Okay.
And it was a bit hot, actually, because it's not computerized. It was a typewriter, so to be pretty accurate.
Amazing.
To get it all in the first place.
I'm sure that really develops your skill doing it like that, right?
Yeah. But sometimes I didn't often get a chance to sort of study the X-ray because it would take me time to fill in the personal details.
Exactly. Yeah.
But sometimes I could have a good look, so I got to know a bit of the physiology of the body.
Anatomy lessons while you're typing away.
That's right.
Pretty amazing. Amazing. Comes in handy. Comes in handy always.
That's right.
And then you end up in this foreign Commonwealth office, which I think is pretty incredible because you were very young, right? When you ended up.
Well, I was 20. That's
pretty young.
And I moved to London. Just a little bit before I got confirmed I got the job, because I just felt I needed to move on from where I'd grown up and experience something different. So I did temping for a short while in London, and then the job was confirmed. I suppose I temped for about 3 months. Job was confirmed, and then there I was.
There you went.
Yeah.
And stationed in some pretty incredible, and I think, I don't know if it was at the time, but especially nowadays, quite dangerous places to be, right? Specifically for a young woman.
Yeah. I did a stint in London, and then I was sent. I got asked to go to Burma, Myanmar, as we know it now.
Yeah.
Which was quite interesting because I'd asked for Nairobi. Well, I always ask, well, where would you like to go? And I thought, well, I quite fancy going to Africa. So I asked for Nairobi, but I was offered Burma. So I decided to accept, because even in those days, it was more open than it is probably now. But I couldn't have spent over a year there and got to know the local people in the way that I did. So it was really special to be there.
And do you remember, from you're going there, from London, you're on your way. Were you afraid, or were you scared, or were you like, oh wow, this is quite or was that just not happening at the time?
No, I don't think I was scared, because it felt very safe to do. I mean, my flight was paid for and given the tickets. I knew there would be a place for me to live, that would be set up and organised for me to go straight into. And so it was a way of travelling with a great deal of security, actually. Yeah. And the travelling is what I wanted to do, because at one point my sister was working as a nurse in Bermuda, and she knew that I was wanting to travel, and she was encouraging me to go there. And actually my interest was more of the cultures that were more different from my own. Burma has better weather, but and some Bermuda has better weather, but a lot is a similar kind of
culture.
Well, that culture is more like from what I experienced when I visited, was more of a sun and beach culture, which I could enjoy, definitely. But I was more interested in countries which had such a huge different cultural background and historically. And I'd always been quite interested in India, you know, being part of British India.
Yeah.
It's figured, well, for me anyway, it figured in our lives. And it always seems so fascinating and so very, very different.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So and then you also ended up in Pakistan after that as well, right? Lynda?
Yes, after Burma, I was asked to go to Pakistan, and so I accepted that, and I was there a year and a half. Yeah.
And do you favor one of the two? Or were they both very different experiences?
They're both very different experiences, but somehow, you know, the first love in one's life is always the most special, so in a way, and the sort of Burma became my own first love as a country, and I met so many beautiful people, and really, it really gave me the chance to explore myself in a different culture and to compare what we had here at that time, what was there, what was good and bad in both places, really. So I felt it really broadened my outlook.
Yeah, on life in general, right?
Yeah, that's right. Whereas in Pakistan, and I was based in Karachi, which was like the trade center of the country. The capital was up north in Islamabad at that time. So it was an interesting place to be, but not so easy to live in, particularly as a single young woman. I mean, I was only about 22 to 20, no, it's probably 23, 24 when I got to Karachi. But you know, you work with what you've got, don't you? And I just did, for some of the women who the wives of the members of the embassy, actually it was called a consulate general, it was the sort of sub-office, the main embassy was in Islamabad. They found it really difficult to go out because they couldn't cope, and I just determined I'm not going to be kept at home just because it's a bit awkward being out and about. And so you dress carefully and in a way that fits in with the culture and doesn't invite attention that you don't want. And I found for the most part it was fine.
Yeah, so that worked, sort of that worked for you.
Yeah, so I would go down into the town quite often and look around and see how life was, and go down some of the back streets. And, you know,
wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. As you said, you know, like how, you know, you were a young woman in your 20s doing all that. Like that's really amazing. That's an amazing thing. Yeah. And travel was always something that you dreamed of doing then, Lynda?
Yeah, was.
Yeah.
It got stronger and stronger as I got older and recognized the possibilities.
Because what's so beautiful about I mean, I'm, as you know, a big traveler myself, and I think it gives you so much. But what for you, what makes traveling so important, or why was it something that, you know, got stronger and stronger over time?
Yeah. Well, it became strong for me because for what I mentioned before about seeing how other people lived and their values were different, and things that were important were different. That was a big part of it, and also, can you just say the question again? I was going to say something else.
Just what made the travel so important to you? Like specifically that it was like getting stronger over time. Like what is it that grabbed you so much about traveling? Like why was traveling such a dream of you?
Yeah, I just wanted to spend time with people who were different from me. Because I was always interested in geography, so I recognized that there are a lot of different parts to this world and a lot of different kinds of places to go, and vegetation and sea or mountains or desert. And I just wanted to experience it, the places, but also the people.
Yeah, because it's the people that make the places, don't they?
Yeah, but the place also makes the people. I experience because,
good point.
For example, when I was traveling through the Sindh desert with a couple of guys from the embassy, and we stopped overnight in a bed and breakfast, and I went out for a walk on my own. I came back pretty fast because I didn't feel that comfortable there, because it was a small town and they were definitely not used to seeing foreigners, let alone a young female.
Yeah.
So, but when we got up into the mountains, like the Khyber Pass and Peshawar and Quetta and these places, the people who lived there, they were much bigger, much stronger. I'm thinking of the men in particular. They carried a rifle over their shoulder, often bullet belt across their chest, and yet they were so kind. I never felt unsafe in that environment. But down in the lower levels, where the sun could get very strong and a lot of heat, I didn't feel so safe. So I developed this notion that the environment molds the people.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Wow, those are some. And then I mean, like, just jump in time, which is an incredible story that you told me, and I told you that I told a few other people, because I was like, oh my god, this woman is so amazing. How you went pretty much on land. You traveled. It sounds like a pilgrimage, really, to India. And did you start in the UK?
Yeah, I started in the UK. So when I finished in Karachi, I had to come back to the UK to sign off and do everything. So I was there probably about 4 months.
Yeah.
And then I left. I timed it, so I was traveling in when I got to the hotter countries, I wasn't going to be in the hot season. Because I know how hot it can get, I wanted to travel like a local. So I knew there wouldn't be air conditioning and there wouldn't be heaters, even if in the really cold places. But it was more the hot places. I timed it round so that set off from London, or from Yorkshire actually, set off from Yorkshire, travelled down to London. And my sister at that moment was with her husband in Switzerland, so I took the train to Basel, and I stayed a few days there. And then I carried on down through Italy, into the toe point of Italy, across to Corfu on the boat, and around Greece, and then up to Istanbul. I mean, that took few weeks, but
Yeah.
say it in one sentence.
So most of these travel you were doing by train and boat then,
At
Lynda,
that
or?
point,
Mm.
yeah,
Wow.
or bus
Yeah.
also.
Mm-hmm.
And then from Istanbul, I took the train, the 4-day train to Tehran,
Wow.
because I wasn't quite sure how moving around in Turkey would be on my own at that point in time. So Istanbul was fine, but I decided to not to explore Turkey at that point, but to go on to Tehran. Which at that point was Iran was very liberal and easy to get around. They had a good bus service from Tehran. I went down to Shiraz, the lovely place where the poets they come from, and I'm just trying to recall which one. There's a couple of really well-known ones. I can't recall who they are anymore.
That's okay.
And
we're still following. Like, I'm still following you on the map. Like, where are we going next?
So we went down to Tehran, to Shiraz, and across to I think we went through Isfahan, and then over on the border into Afghanistan. Yeah. And then anyway, because I'd done it once a couple of times, might have mixed my routes up a bit, but and then through Afghanistan to Kabul.
Yeah.
Always been fascinated with Afghanistan because the British never managed to get up the Khyber Pass. And I could tell why when I was traveling in those mountainous regions. I could tell why. And they've been able to. I mean, I don't think it's so easy to live there now as an Afghani if you're not a Taliban or you're not super religious. But they've certainly held out the imperialists.
Yeah.
So,
because that was different at that time, Lynda. That wasn't really, it was a different Afghanistan that you've seen then.
Oh, yeah, I think so. I think a lot of it's got destroyed now, but like, I think from what I understand, there was so much in the markets of dried fruits and nuts. I think all those have been devastated with the wars that have gone on there.
Yeah, that's hard, of course. I mean, wars destroy so much, like we only think about, specific things, but everything is, of course, it's all interrelated.
Yeah.
But this travel that you were doing, are you by yourself doing this now, or are you with someone?
Yeah, I was by myself. I mean, I teamed up with different people on the way as we're going in the same direction. But nice. Essentially, I was on my own. And amazing. I found that quite a blessing because it meant that I was open to meeting a lot of other people.
Yeah.
That sometimes it's not so easy to do if you're already with somebody.
And one of the most inspiring things to me about this story, and we have to kind of go back a little bit, is you told me that someone told you you couldn't really do this as a tiny little English woman. You know what I mean?
That's
like, can we go back to that? Can you explain? Because that's such a good, like, for everybody listening. Don't ever listen to other people. Like, follow your heart.
Yeah,
this is Lynda will tell us why. Please tell us.
Yeah, this was when I was in Karachi. And a friend of mine from London was doing the overland trip to Australia with an Australian boyfriend she'd met in London. And they arrived in pretty bad shape. She was better than him, actually. But they were very... They were both quite hydrated. He apparently hadn't peed for 3 days, he told me.
Not a good thing.
And they were traveling through, they travelled on the train through what's known as the Sind Desert there. At the height of the hot season. So they came, when they got to me, they were not in good shape. He was really quite seriously ill. I had to call the doctor in.
Wow.
Doctor had to come twice, give him some intravenous fluids and bed rest.
Yeah.
So they stayed with me, and I was hearing about their travels and so on, and it was something that I'd thought a lot about because I'd been to these two places in this like official capacity. But I wanted to see the world and know the people a little bit faster than that allowed me to do. And, you know, so I said, about 3 or 4 days before they went, I said to them, do you think I could do this on my own? And he said to me, oh no, Lynda, I don't think so. I think I've seen 1 or 2 butch Australian women out there on their own, but I don't think you can. So I took a breath. I didn't say anything at the time, but what I realised was, you don't know me.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Come on, boyfriend.
You don't know me.
Exactly.
I am not the one who's arrived on my knees at somebody's house. And it took a month. It took them a month before they were fit enough to travel again.
Exactly.
Not just physically, but mentally. They had to sort
of course, get themselves together again. Yeah.
And wind themselves up, get ready for it. So I thought, well, you don't know me. I've lived out here at that point with 2.5 years. Karachi and Rangoon combined. And I think I won't get into this mess. I'd make sure that I had enough to drink and plan my travels a bit.
Exactly, plan your route properly. And
so actually, it really did me a favour.
Yeah, 100%. So, 100%.
3 days after they left, I sent in my notice. And said, I'm going to stay until the end of my contract. And then I'll come home, and I had to go home and sign off and get my things back home and everything, which I had to pay for because I didn't want to have to do another 3 months in the UK. I was determined. I was excited. I wanted to get on with it. So and the really good thing about Karachi and the conditions I was there, because it was considered really hard to live there. I had I got paid more, so I was able to save quite a bit. And
amazing, Lynda. And I think it's such an amazing example of like whatever you put your mind to, you can do. You know, like you have that, and that's why I think when you say like, but you don't know me, like I think that's sort of the feeling I got was like I can do this, and I'm going to do this, and that's what I think is specifically for anybody listening who has that kind of feeling, like, you know, you really, sometimes people can actually, by telling you what you can't do, they're really, you know, I don't know, they just, you know, they're bringing something alive in your come back, you know.
They do you a favor, don't they?
Absolutely, 100%. So in a way, I'm grateful that this guy, you know, didn't pee and had all kinds of, you know, opinions about Lynda traveling. But there you went, and I think it's an incredible thing. I mean, it's so brave what you've done, and incredible. What an inspirational. At such a young age, you really, you know, conquered.
Because out of my my own social circle, I didn't know anybody who either had the money or the time
Yeah.
to go and do that. Most of my friends at that stage were married and starting a family. And so I thought, if I'm going to do it, I have to do it on my own. And so I did.
And then, because I think the journey is so incredible, like when you talk about, because I think a lot of times we say the journey and the destination, like, you know, they're equally important. So I think the journey was already incredible, everything you're saying, like meeting people on the road, traveling together. But then how was it to actually arrive in India, and how was India, that first experience for you? How was that?
Oh, that was fantastic. I had already been for a short time when I was going out to Karachi. I went on to India and spent a few days there, and a few days in Nepal, and came back to Karachi. I also went into Rangoon as well, catch up with some of my friends.
Cool.
So,
but I guess the experience to have had all that big, I think something is really leading up, isn't it? Like when you've had that whole journey of like going there, you know, by land. And
so when I came in by land, I came in by Lahore into Amritsar, and the border crossing was quite interesting. The guy was they were really hot on, because drugs were quite prevalent, particularly in Afghanistan, and they see the Afghanistan stamp in your passport, and they were giving people quite a hard time because of that. And I had a few Indian rupees in my socks at the time, because you could buy them a lot cheaper in Afghanistan, you see. And he was giving this person ahead of me quite a hard time, and I'm getting a bit panicked, really. And I just sailed through. It didn't bother with me at all. And then took the train overnight to Delhi, New Delhi.
Wow.
I spent quite a time in New Delhi and explored a lot of the different places. And then over the next 3 months, just slowly moved around the country, usually traveling by train, often overnight to save the hassle, because the distances are quite big. Traveling overnight to save the hassle of having to find somewhere to sleep. And I think those days I averaged out my time in India cost me 50p a day. 50p in those days, not 50p in these days.
Wow, that's amazing.
Including all the trains.
That's really...
The trains were amazing places to see life and to...
I mean,
like a village.
That's it, on wheels, right? Yeah. I can really imagine that. And I think for people who have never, myself included, and I'm going soon, so I'm also asking this for myself, but specifically, you know, I know a lot of, you know, yoga teachers or people who have interest in yoga, they kind of, myself included, I'd love to go to India, but I'm also a little bit afraid of it. Like I find it a bit, you know, you hear so many stories and people getting, you know, like parasites, and they get really ill, and, you know, like, what would your tips be for people traveling to India now? Like what have you seen, and what could you give people, some of your India wisdom?
Well, my India wisdom is a bit out of date, but some things will still be relevant. Only drink the bottled water, and make sure that the bottles are properly sealed and haven't just been filled up from the tap.
That happens too.
It's such a mixture, is India, really. And so you've got to be a bit savvy, streetwise.
Yeah.
But And if you don't know where you're going, look as though you know where you're going. That's the
Yeah.
main thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also, it's good to ask questions as well. But choose the people. In those days, English was spoken by so many people. I think it might not be because Hindi became the language of education. When I was there in those days, English was the language of education. So anybody who'd been through school
Could speak English.
could speak English. But that's changed. I mean, which is good in many ways. But it makes it a bit more difficult to travel around. But I think there are still enough people who speak English. Though I always tried to learn the numbers and please and thank you in the language. I'm not. Some people are really good at languages, and that's not one of my gifts that I've come with. But I tried to make that effort just so that the people I interacted with in the shops and so on would know I'd made an effort.
Exactly.
Also take me a bit more seriously and not charge me the 10 rupees for something that was 1 rupee to everybody else, you know.
And with food, do you need to be careful with food as well, Lynda? Like you were saying, bottled water is food another thing that,
I wouldn't eat salads unless it's in a place that's guaranteed that they filter all the water thoroughly. Definitely not. And peel all the fruits.
Yeah.
So oranges are fine because they're easy to peel, but I would also peel apples and pears and so on.
Because have you had any problems with becoming ill, or did you have some challenges in India, or?
Actually not. I think because I've been in Rangoon and Karachi, even in a much more protected eating environment than I was when I was traveling, I didn't get any problems in that way. And I think I'd built up a resistance. I think that's why, because I'd been out there. So that wasn't a problem for me. But you do need to be careful and to have something that'll help settle your stomach if you get it.
I think
there's difference.
That's for, that's, I think, for a lot of people that holds against a little bit of the feeling of wanting to go, like just that. But, I think, but it's so worth it, isn't it, Lynda? I mean,
so worth it. And so worth it in the sense, if you're able to get away from where the majority of other Western people are, and you can experience the...
True India.
Sometimes you need a bit of a guide for that sort of thing. But...
But I always I even have that, living in Amsterdam, that I always love taking people to places that I know that are necessarily, it's always really lovely when you are with locals and you get to really see what the local life is like,
Yes.
So, and you were lucky enough to experience that in India then, Lynda.
Oh, yes. Yes, I was.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really amazing.
They're amazingly kind people. I experienced then. Very, very kind people. You do need to be prepared, and I don't know if it's worse or better for the level of poverty. That can be really grueling, when you're circled by 20 children all keen to have a bite off your banana, or something like,
that's confrontational also, isn't it? Like that's really hurtful.
So you do need to be prepared for that, and but the benefits far outweigh the challenges.
Oh, that's beautiful.
In my experience. And if we're not challenged, I mean, it's not worth doing it, is it?
It's true. No, definitely.
You need to have a bit of the challenge.
Absolutely. And what you're saying as well, as long as the benefits way higher, then I think it's an incredible country, and I'm definitely I'm very excited to go see it, especially like also, talking to you about it. And then let's make a really big jump from you being there in your 20s in India. You are now living in a beautiful community in Wales, in Snowdonia Mountains. It's really, really beautiful there. And you have been there for quite some time, right now?
Yeah. I've been more than 20 years. Yeah. But I think I didn't come to Wales immediately. I got involved, but most of my time I've been here. So I've probably been here 22 years.
Yeah, because I thought it would be to end the this interview. I thought it'd be really nice to talk a little bit about like ashram living, and like. I think what's really beautiful is I've been, of course, in the ashram a few times this year, and got to know you and some other people in the community, and I've got very inspired. I think it's a really beautiful way to see. I think what's so beautiful is to really also see how people are communicating with each other and how important that is, and how it's very different, in my opinion, from the real world, or some of the harsher city living situation that people can be in. So I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about how it is to live in a community. Like how does that for so long also, like how do you experience it? And
well, I wouldn't be anywhere else, so that says a lot, doesn't it?
Definitely.
It's not always easy, because I mean, life anywhere is not always easy, is it? It's through those moments that we grow. But the beauty of living together with people who are all committed to help each other and to put something more into the world than we feel we've taken. That in itself I find really inspiring. And we're a really mixed bunch of people, very different personalities, very different views on quite a few things, and somehow we find the way to be on the same page most of the time. As age range, like I'm 72. I think the oldest is 80, 81 actually, it might be. Elizabeth's 83, and the youngest is probably 25. So it's a really lovely age range. It's just like a big family. And I think and while I'm not a hugely sociable person, I'm not the sort of person who's always looking for somebody else to speak with. It's so wonderful being surrounded by people who, when we do get together to have a conversation, really enjoy it.
And do you think that the spirituality that you guys all hold and share, that makes a big difference, right? Like I'm sure there's community living without kind of God as the central point.
I think for me, I feel it's essential, because that gives another dimension to dealing with the tricky times, to want to make it work so we can all stay together.
Yeah, because that's what I think I was mentioning to you as well. What I loved about Rita, who also lives and is the co-founder of this community, she said, when you pray together, you stay together. And I always remember that, it's really true, I guess.
I think, it is. If you're just there because you want to live sustainably, for example, and I visited quite a few of those communities when I was actively looking for community, place to go and live. together with other people, because that was my focus at that point. I wanted to, it's less demanding on the earth if you live together in many ways. You don't need so many cars, per person, you don't need so many washing machines, you know what I mean in that. But I thought I would never survive in some of them. There would have needed to be something stronger for me to stay there than just growing food for ourselves, or doing the occasional course in one or two of them. So that line didn't really work for me.
Yeah, because it's like you feel that also, if you compare it to where you are now, and how this, as you were saying, the actual layer, the actual dimension is what you also is what I think it's, for me, what I've seen as an outsider is like it has brought you together and it's kept you together, because I think bringing together is one thing, but how do you keep people together, and how do you keep going? And I think you guys have your pujas and your artis, and like your nearly daily spiritual practice that you all share with each other.
Yes,
that I think is the strength of this community for sure. Definitely. And if you are a person who has anything with Krishna or not, it doesn't matter. Like you just feel the energy and the strength.
Yes. I think there's not the expectation that we pick up, as everybody picks up every strand that we do. Some people are more into meditation, other people are more into chanting, other people
there's something for everyone, really. I think there's a gateway for everyone.
Yes.
And what I love also is that you're also welcoming to people who don't live there, to guests, because I've definitely also been in sort of community living situations where it's very much us and then there's you. And I never experienced that with you. I mean, I think I also really connected with all of you, because I can just really, I just really fit it in straight away in a way.
You did.
But it's also, it was very inspiring to me. There is always, you feel welcomed, you're seen, you're recognized, and you're accepted for who you are. And I think that and only, I believe, only a true devotee is able to give that to people. I think it's a beautiful gift that you guys give to each other and give to people who are just visiting, or just are sort of part-time part of the whole, I guess. No, it's really beautiful. And do you remember, for you, Lynda, like one of my last questions for you, and maybe this is a big question to ask, but do you remember when sort of, I mean, lots of people freak out when they hear the word God, but do you remember when God or spirituality or the universe, or however we want to call it, came into your life? Like, was it always in your life, or what happened?
Well, no, God wasn't always in my life. And at certain points in my life, I went to church, and then I found that I didn't feel I could say or sing the words that we were needing to say, because I couldn't say that. I wouldn't be able to say that I believed them. And I don't like to say things that I'm not sure about. So but when I finally settled down, I mean, obviously in India and other countries, the presence of God was clearly there, and you could feel, you go in a temple and you can feel it. But I went in quite a few mosques, and some of those mosques I could feel it too. Different churches, you can feel the connection somehow. But I took up reflexology, and so looking at the health from a perspective of body, heart, mind, and spirit. So I'm thinking, well, what is this spirit? And I did various other courses, and realized that it's there in us all, and it became more obvious as I explored it. And I got to a stage where I would like to be in a position where I could explore that with other people, and not just on my own. And I found myself, I had this wonderful lady who I used to go and see, and she encouraged me to go to the Quaker meetings, which eventually I did. And Quaker meetings traditionally are silent meetings, but there's no priest or vicar or anything like that. If you feel you've got something that you feel is everybody needs to hear, you can stand up and say it within the hour time that we sit together. And I went, and I was living in York at the time, and I realized that a lot of those people I saw in that meeting I already knew. Not closely, but I knew, but I didn't know that they were going to the Quaker meeting. So that took me along the way, and then I was through the York Quaker meeting. I went to Woodbrook College, which is a Quaker study centre just south of Birmingham. So, and there, like my two things came together, because we were sometimes up to 20, 25, even one time 30 nationalities.
Wow.
Every different faith you could think of, all living together for an 11-week term.
Yeah.
So there I had both things, I'd stopped traveling myself.
Yeah. And the travel came to you.
Travel came to me.
Amazing.
But I was exploring community there because I wasn't finding anything else that worked for me. So, so through that, I met a lot of people who were very. I began to understand Christianity, especially from a Quaker perspective, a lot more than I had before. And there's a lot of wonderful. Across the world, lots of wonderful devotees in Christianity who love the Lord, do it in a different way. But then I started doing yoga. I started doing Drew yoga, and I got to know the team, and I thought that I think this is where I belong. So it took me quite a long time to go through the process of being.
So yeah, there was yoga. Yoga was there first, basically.
Yeah, but it took me quite a bit of time from actually saying, "Oh, I really like what you do, and what's the chances of me coming to live with you?" That took quite a process, but I hung in there, and I'm so glad I did.
Yes,
I just can't tell you how amazing it has been, and the whole process. And for example, I was hospitalized with COVID. So not only in hospital with COVID, but couldn't have any visitors. But it was, fortunately I had my phone with me. My visitors came through my phone. But it was tangible. The feelings that I had, that so many people were rooting for me.
Yeah, amazing, right?
In the whole round the globe Drew community. So that would be an experience I would never ask or wish on anybody. But actually, I learned so much from it.
Yeah.
I learned that I was loved. I learned how much I was loved.
Yeah.
And when you know that, it's so much easier to sit solidly in yourself.
Yeah.
Isn't it? And so
probably saved your life, Lynda.
Yeah, I think it might.
Yeah, most likely. I mean, I strongly, as you know, I'm spiritual, and I feel it saved your life that because you were very on the edge of.
I was.
You know, maybe not making it, and
yeah.
When people are praying for you,
yeah,
that's incredible.
It is.
Yeah.
So
What an amazing experience.
so that shows me the power of prayer,
Yeah.
shows the
And
power
power of
of
Sangha.
my prayer for
Yeah.
other people,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
the power of Sangha, yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that sort of togetherness, and that's something that I have really, for myself, also really experienced this year. It's like togetherness is everything, like together when you have someone by your side, I think you also come, I don't know, Rita once said this as well, you come to yourself faster, or you come to certain developments in your life faster because you have other people around you who are reflecting something to you as well. To your insights, he said, your insights, you come to your insights faster in a community. And I think that it's a logical thing, isn't it? Of course you're going to learn more because you have people already, like, yeah, shadowing you in a way, or sort of like giving you mirrors.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's
and you can pick up signs, and if you've had um, a day where you've not done as many of our sadhana as I would have liked to have done, you can see that somebody else is doing theirs, and that's inspiration to go and do mine.
Yeah. It's good, right?
Yeah.
I've definitely seen it as well, just coming in fresh, and starting to clean the kitchen, and people like happily, join in, and it's no, it's a wonderful place, and it's a wonderful, it's a wonderful people together in one place. And I don't know, I remember being there when I first came there. I was like, we need more like these, we need more places like this in the world, and I think that the energy that you guys are creating is getting into the world, and that's so beautiful. And and I just hope that there'll be more of that in the world.
Yeah, let's hope. I mean, it's not everybody's way, but I've certainly found it to be my way.
That's a really beautiful thing to say, Lynda. I think in general I see that with a lot of things, and I think the beautiful thing with you is you really know your calling, and your dharma, and you're living it every day. So that's an incredible thing. And I don't know, would you have, as a last sort of, do you have some piece of wisdom or knowledge to share with listeners who are like, what should I do in this world? Because I think the world at the moment is we're living in very challenging times, Lynda. And I think that we also need to be there for each other. And what would your advice be to the young people in this world?
People would be explore different things. Don't try not to get tied down to one thing. That also works for some people, but a lot of people explore different things. Explore like explore yoga, explore Buddhism, explore different ways of coming to know ourselves. But at some point, we have to make a commitment. Otherwise, we're just jumping from one thing to the next. And I mean, I've done a bit of jumping from one thing to the next, but I also know that the first thing has come to an end, and you need, for the next stage in our lives growing, we need to move on to something else. But I think it's important to get an experience of different lifestyles, of different styles of thinking, different ways of doing it, doing anything. But at some point, make a commitment.
Yeah, that's really,
because
stick
then
with it, right?
Stick with it, or even if it's not for life, stick with it a bit longer perhaps than some of the other things, because it's only through sticking with things that we really get to know about them and about the other people who are part of that.
For sure. That's really good advice.
I think that's really important. And I think it's important to remember also that there's every cloud. This is a very old English saying. Every cloud has a silver lining. Now, when I went into hospital, I would never have recognized that there was a silver lining. But by the time I came out, I'd found the silver lining.
There it was.
And
there it
definitely was. So I think, try to keep an optimistic view.
Absolutely.
Because it takes a bit less effort than staying too down and heavy and frustrated. And
to not forget that there's also the silver lining, I think.
There's also the silver lining, even if the silver lining, it could be that it pushes us into doing something different. And remember that we're in this together. And help each other. Yeah, and
reach out to whoever, your friends, your tribe, your community. Because I think that's a thing that I think we now just are scared of doing sometimes,
keep in touch. Keep in touch with people you know. Yeah.
That's really good advice, Lynda. I think it's really, and when someone tells you that you can't go to India, tell them go fuck himself. Okay? You see me, boo, I'm doing it. So that is, I mean, we've learned so much being with you, Lynda, in this hour. So I'm so grateful for you taking the time again for our second session. I learned so much about you that I didn't know, and confirmed some things that I did know. I think you're such a wonderful being, and you really shine an incredible light. And you're an inspiration to me, and I'm really grateful that I met you. So thank you so much for this lovely chat. And I think it's very inspirational for people to learn from someone who's been around for a bit. Other things. Definitely. It was like such a pleasure.
Thank you so much for asking me to come. And I do hope that even if it's one sentence helps one person, that it's worthwhile.
I always say that as well. And I really think that will happen, because sometimes you can it's in the little things, it's in that the little touches, and you have the ability to really touch people's souls. So I'm sure that people will get that from this beautiful conversation. And I will hopefully see you soon, Lynda, but we stay in touch.
We stay in touch. Yes.
From one of your advices, we do that. We do stay in touch. And for everybody listening, I'll have a little bit of information about some of the things that Lynda was talking about, and Drew Yoga. I'll get the website in the show notes. And you know the drill. Be good to yourself. Be good to others, especially the animals. Thank you. Bye. Thank you all so very much for listening to Go For Your Life. I really appreciate it. And if you liked it, you know what to do. Please leave a review, leave a comment, share it amongst friends, do whatever you can do to support me and this podcast, because it is my life. Thank you very much, Miguel, for doing the editing. Thank you so much, Maria, for your beautiful designs. Thank you, Sparky, for being the best co-host ever. Thank you, animals worldwide, for your daily inspiration to keep me going, for always putting that fuel in me. Thank you so much, because we know the drill, right? Namaste, vegan. Go, go, go.